Hello viewers. Today I have a 1997 Lasko 3723. This has been in many videos on this channel. This fan, as I've talked about many times, some of you may know the story already, but it was new to me, well, brand new to anyone in 1997. I was 19 years old when I acquired this. I actually acquired two at the same time. Unfortunately, its brother is no longer with us, hasn't been in some time, but this one has super high hours on it, and it has been restored a number of years ago. And then in summer of, I think 2024, a subscriber to this channel, a premium subscriber, I should say, helped me replace the blades on here. The original blades warped and the hub cracked due to my kind of negligence trying to get them off. And then I had a set of blades on here, D blades from late 80s. Yeah, they worked pretty well, but then he hooked me up with this set, and I'm forever grateful to him. The guards, I have actually a few sets of these older guards. I kept the set from the brother of this fan. I have those, and I think those are a bit more yellowed. And again, actually, these I think came from the brother fan, the sibling fan, and ones that were on here I think yellowed pretty badly because this was in a window that got a lot of sunlight. This was all yellowed. This was all yellowed. This is the original handle. It just recently cracked in the past year or two. So unfortunately, I'm going to have to replace it. And I always liked this design switch. I thought it was pretty cool. It's pretty neat. It's kind of vintage looking. You know, it was kind of, I think, the mimic of vintage switch, which is neat. And really looking at the Air King next to it, the 9723, the handle style really hasn't changed, much like how Lakewood had their iconic kind of half rectangle handle. There's kind of, you know, changed in terms of the thickness of the plastic over time, and that's kind of really what happened here. But I could retrofit a new handle on here, and I think I have another old one from the sibling. So again, well documented, high hours. This has been restored and performs really well. I've repainted it. Clearly, it's not the original paint. I tried to match it as best as possible at that time, and he performs well. He performs well. So now he just kind of hangs out. He doesn't have a regular day job any longer. He's in the retirement home. Comes out now and again for spot duty, more for enjoyment versus actual work. I know I sound ridiculous. So the 9723 on the side is brand new, 2026, and will probably likely be my daily. I told everyone in previous videos I used a Dayton variant of the Lasko B20725, which is the metal bladed commercial Lasko / Dayton that came out a number of years ago and was quickly discontinued. I talked about how that has rusted after 1 year, 1 season in the window, despite not using it in the rain. So I want to replace it with something that is not going to rust. And also, you know, in that case, you know, that's a rare fan. They don't make that anymore, so I don't necessarily want to do that to it. And even though I have 3 in the collection. So we're going to use this Air King this year, and in another video I'm going to prep it for use, and I'm going to talk about that, so that's a separate. But I was thinking in some of the videos that I was doing recently with the Air King, and I have another one of these 9723s that I had recently converted, well, recently, like last spring, with the metal blades, and we have some fun comparison videos we have done there. Hopefully you've seen those. But it got me thinking, hey, what should I compare the plastic bladed one to? Now, what would have been interesting, and I do believe these 9723s had D blades at one point in time, and you know, my knock on these 9723s, really my 2 knocks on them are these ugly guards, and I guess it's more function over fashion, but the blades look ridiculous in that big cabinet. Like look how look how little they look. They look like they could fit in an 18-inch box fan. Now those D blades, look how they fill out that 3723 really nicely. And I feel like the blades are the correct proportion to the hub, where I always felt these little blades that's like in the Air King and today in the 3733s, the hubs look disproportionately large compared to the actual blades. If I had an extra set of D blades, I don't want to go monkeying around with these D blades because these are in fantastic shape and I don't want to mess with pulling them on and off. But if I had an extra set, I would toss them on this Air King and see what that does. But all right, so I just thought this would be a neat comparison. I have a couple other ideas for this Air King that we'll do in videos down the line here. All right, so let's just for fun, let's just go. Well, let's do a little more comparing. We already talked about the grills, the blades, the switches, the handles, but from a cabinet thickness, from a height, they're about the same, and from a thickness, Air King has got it. The irony is the 3723 on the left. It's at the time, I remember when this style came out, which was I believe 94, 95, because I had my very first iteration was an Eastern Electric one of these. I find that those are super rare today to find an Eastern Electric version of this Lasko. I had one. I bought it at a Jamesway, which if anyone knows what a Jamesway is, think of like rival to Kmart. I bought it in Jamesway in Newton, New Jersey, and I drove all the way up to Jamesway because I knew that they had one, and I wanted an Eastern version because I just, I've talked about in other videos how for some reason in my area there was plenty of Easterns for sale, from the 80s all the way up, and I've owned them brand new. Fortunately enough, I've owned a lot of them brand new from the 80s all the way up into the mid 90s. So I just thought it was cool. It would be cool to get my hands on another one. And these 90s generation are basically one of the box fans that if I run into at on Marketplace, not so much eBay because it's just so expensive, but more so if I run into it at say a flea market, thrift store, fan meet, I'm grabbing them all day long because these are nostalgic to me. Not because they're my super childhood fan. That's well documented on this channel. Just look at the logo of this channel. The McGraw Edison is. I'm a late 70s model myself, so my early days are throughout the 80s, and in my teenage years are the 90s. So this was kind of like nostalgia part 2 in my life, the 90s. And these things were everywhere. But you can see that the Air King is wider, but at the time, as I think I was trying to get to, and my mind races all over the place sometimes, probably too much caffeine. I remember thinking that these things were skinny, and I was like, because they went from the rectangular cabinet of the late 80s, early 90s to this, and I was like, it's a Lakewood copy. They're going with the rounded cabinet, but really, most people half my age today really only know this style, all the way up to today. They kept this rounded, and I should imagine that they will never go back to a fully square cabinet. Okay. But now when I look at these things, when I spot them out there, they look wide to me. Still back then they used better screws. Like look how big those screws are compared to this. These look tiny. I was never a fan of these switches or knobs, and I get why they did it. They probably it's a single piece. It's one piece, so manufacturing, right? One piece, and probably slightly less plastic overall than that. So again, pennies add up when it comes to manufacturing. All right, so let's compare these guys, and you have basically new out of the box, other than a few videos it's been in. This is the complete opposite end of the spectrum, a billion hours on it, but just keeps going. All right, so we're gonna do low. We're gonna do age first. this was very normal for these fans. Very slow, quiet, low. You know, I think of the Lakewood 223s doing the same thing, but this generation Lasko certainly is very quiet, slow, low. Sometimes I felt like if you had some of these, they would almost sound like something's wrong because they would be so slow. And I did used to notice if I didn't use the fan for like the whole off season and I turned it on, it felt like it was extra slow for whatever reason. Nice gentle breeze. You know, I also, you know, really like the wider struts, the motor mounts. It's, you know, now they're so skinny, even on the Air King. And just that patented like Marco motor. Turn it around. Just, I mean, that's, you see these everywhere. Everywhere. And you know, this motor started out in the square cabinet after they swapped away from the plastic. You can see this wire is kind of moving its way in. I gotta adjust that. But yeah, these were in the rectangular cabinets or the square cabinets, and then they made their way into these cabinets, and then they changed, you know, went away from this. But these motors, one of the things I find as a potential weak spot with these things, these Marco motors, while I really like them, they're some of my favorites, is lubrication. Now, this is not going to be popular, but the 3733s of today get high marks for lubrication. They typically don't dry up, don't fail. These, I feel if you run them pretty good and don't oil them, you might even if you clean them, like, you know, clean the dust off, you might get up to 5 years if you run them hard and no oil. I guess you could say that's pretty good, but I found that they would get stiff. I do think this version of the Marco motor, reliability and longevity is better than the plastic version. Before this, I felt like that dried out even faster and locked up. All right, let's get to, this is like, this was in my bedroom, and this actual fan you see here was in my bedroom forever. Look at that spin down. You know, we just serviced a 99, was it a 2000, a 99 2000 Lasko premium box fan, spin down, even with it freshly oiled, and that a few years newer than this, spin down still not as nice. I don't know why. And I think that one still has a Marco motor too, same motor as this, but for some reason this one came out really well. Obviously this is louder. It's moving more air, but I also think it's faster. Like it's quote unquote geared differently. It's moving way more air at a low speed than the Lasko. Medium. This blaze is just so loud. I mean, I would argue that this moves on medium, and we've done these videos before. This moves on medium more than a modern 3733 on high. Now, I am aware of the alleged medium issue. I almost said crisis with these fans. Now, I'm just going to go on record and say I was really oblivious to the medium issue with these Marco motors from this time frame or era, mainly because I typically only used high and low on fans. Rarely do I use medium, even to this day. It's funny, I want a 3-speed fan, but I never use medium. It's just weird. So you guys tell me if this is has an issue with the medium speed. So I think this throws off pretty good air. I'm going to say the Air King's throwing off more air. there is a noticeable difference between low and medium on this fan for sure. So I thought I heard in other videos that that's the problem. Like there's not really a big difference between medium and either low. And what was weird with this fan too is when I had the older style D blades on them that I no longer have, I was part of a trade to get these blades. I wish I remembered where I got those older D blades from. If wherever I got them is a watches these videos or subscribed, you know, chime in if you remember, if you recall me getting your vintage D blades, not these on this fan, because I know who gave those to me. I don't know if he wants me calling them out, but I noticed when I had those blades on, and basically what those blades look like are, I'll show you. The blades that I had on here temporarily looked like these on this Eastern Electric, where they have the little nub on the front of the hub that has the clip on it. Now, for whatever reason, this fan didn't perform as well. And it's strange to me because the blades are shaped exactly the same. The only difference is the hub. And I thought, despite all the restoration on this fan, that I couldn't fully bring it back to its glory days. I put these blades back on there, the performance, it sounded just like it used to, etc. So I'm wondering if even those old blades that I had, the incorrect period blades on here, or maybe they had some warpage or something going on, but that's medium. So let's go to high. I'm looking forward to using this fan. There it is. This fan ran for hours, the hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of hours it ran on high. I mean, I think there was even times when a week would go by that wasn't shut off. If somebody was always home, or if somebody even ran out for just ran down the road or whatever, it stayed on. I mean, the wear that was on this thing. And I remember when it was starting to fail, it almost sounded like a knock. Like occasionally you get like a knocking sound from the motor. It's like a car, right? Like you get that knock. It was really weird. You would hear it, and you're like, oh man. And then it just didn't sound right. And then eventually it locked up. It was bad. But it came back to life after a good restoration. This was a full-on restoration. Very proud of that. That one came out really well. The only regret I have is I wish that I could have a little more closely matched the paint. And I didn't spray the paint in this case. I actually used Rust-Oleum, like a glossy Rust-Oleum that you could apply with a paintbrush. I wouldn't do that again. I just thought I would try something different, you know. And it's funny, it has a few little chips in it already just from use, but that's a minor thing, and I'm very happy with it. It's that's one I'll hang on for as long as possible. All right, so then brings us to this. It's loud. It moves a lot of air. Yeah, it has more force to it. Definitely has more force than that. Yeah, you can see the difference. as a reminder, this video turned out to be really long, probably because I won't stop talking about this fan. I tell myself, oh, they've already heard it, me talking about it or whatever, but I just get into it because I'm so proud of I'm just so proud to have owned something for 29 years. Of course, it makes me sound really old. I've owned this for 29 years and used it hard, but cared for it. And then when the wheels fell off of it, so to speak, put it back together again with the restoration, and here we go. Now I could put this into service. The problem is it's getting harder and harder to find parts for this thing. The blades especially. So that's why it also makes sense to snag these. And these deep blades warp fairly easily. Okay, so as a reminder, when I compare these fans, I like to look at them in 3 different categories. And this is for you to think about as well, so certainly comment. First category is performance. Objectively, Air King. I mean, let's just call it what it is. Air King beats the Lasko on performance. Say what you will about those loud blades and those ugly looking blades and the guard, even though this is my favorite fan for 2026. It's what it is. Second criteria. So the performance is the performance. Can't really argue that. I mean, I guess if I wasn't being objective, you could argue I'm not being objective. Number 2, reliability, durability. I'm going to have to give it to the Lasko because it is 29 years old and it could go into service right now. Now, granted, it's been overhauled, and I'm sure if the Air King failed and I overhauled it, it would go on and on too. But the fact that, it survived all that. So I'm just going to have to, without the Air King kind of proving itself out. And I do think this Air King, that all I say about it with these blades and everything, and it has a different motor, of course, I do think it's going to prove out to be super reliable, super duper. And then, so the Lasko. So right now we have a draw. Number 3. The third category is aesthetics. And I would say I'm taking Lasko. I do like the wider cabinet on the Air King. I think those D blades would look awesome in that fan. And it would just fill it out better, fill out that cabinet better. And if you put traditional guards on that Air King, oh man. In fact, I might have yeah, you know what? I have pretty handy here. You can see how yellow these see. That will give you an idea what happened to this. This was, like I said, these guards were on this fan, and then I replaced it with the fan that failed. I wish I still had that fan. I didn't know how to repair fans like I do today. Otherwise, we would have 2 of these. But I'm just saying, from a size standpoint, ooh, this would be interesting. The holes don't really, it's just, ooh, it'd be very, it's just slightly smaller. That'd be an interesting test. That'd be really cool. So in the end, I am going to say the 3723 wins. Now, the Air King 9723 is seen as a upscale model, like a more commercial model than the 3723. So from a performance standpoint, it makes sense that it beat it. Now, Air King, I remember seeing these fans labeled as Air Kings as well. I think I would like to collect one of those in an Eastern Electric. That would be really cool. It would be fun, just be fun, to have those, even though they're identical, they're the exact same thing. So let me know in the comments, which one would you take? I'm obviously this comparison based on the criteria, the 3 criteria. It won. Air King won on performance, reliability, durability. 29 years. And then aesthetics. I just think this is a more handsome looking fan. Now, I'll just say this. For those of you younger people into the hobby, one, I appreciate you because we need more young people into the hobby. And it's great at these fan meets to see so many young guys there. I used to be you. I used to be alone because we didn't have the internet, we didn't have YouTube or any of that stuff. So I just thought I was a loner. So it's great that you guys can network. I'm happy to network with you guys and learn from you, learn from each other. Awesome. But there is a really cool feeling, I gotta say, of owning something since brand new and have it be this old. So if you can, whether it's, I mean, if you like these fans, if you're like this, if you agree with me and say this is the best fan of 2026 era, because it has a full cabinet, it's the closest thing to a vintage fan you'll ever get. That's brand new, box fan that is. Grab one of these, and if you really want to use it, grab two maybe, and just squirrel one away. But what I would say is, time unfortunately flies by really quickly. So 29 years from now, you could be on camera talking about your vintage Air King 9723. Even if you did what I did and used it, I was just fortunate to have some parts and be able to work with one of you, a couple of you guys to get pieces for it here and there. So think about grabbing something. If you're into oscillating fans, grab something today and hang on to it. And it's just really cool. Again, I was 19 years old when I bought this thing, and I'm in my late 40s now. If this thing could talk, it would tell you a lot of stories. So that's just kind of me sharing some wisdom. All right, well, this video went way longer than it should have, but anytime that this guy gets in on camera, I tend to be a little more chatty. So drop a comment, like, subscribe, and I do this thing with subscriptions where if you sign up for a subscription, we post videos out. I'll give you an example. As of right now, it is March 19th. This video for the public will not air until sometime in May. However, if you are a subscriber, or I should say you have a membership, subscriber is different. If you have a membership, right? If you have a membership, you get access to all of these videos the moment they get posted out there. And typically we air one video a day, sometimes two videos a day, in rare cases 3 videos a day, and we are booked every day all the way into May, late May actually. So hopefully by the time this video actually airs, we have the windows open here and we're using some fans, because as of March 19th, today I saw the temperature in the 20s and made me want to come hide down here with my fans for a little bit longer. All right, well, we'll see you on the next one. And as always, if you have any suggestions for fan comparison videos, love to hear them.